The morning sun cast long shadows across the military base as General Marcus Thompson made his usual rounds. He had been doing this same walk for 3 years now, checking on his soldiers, observing their training, and maintaining the discipline that kept Camp Henderson running like clockwork. His polished boots clicked against the concrete as he moved between the barracks, his keen eyes missing nothing. Thompson was known for his attention to detail. At 52, he had served in multiple conflicts and earned respect through both his strategic mind and his ability to spot talent where others saw only ordinary soldiers. His weekly inspections were legendary among the troops. Nothing escaped his notice, from a poorly made bed to exceptional marksmanship scores. On this particular Tuesday, he decided to take a different route through the base. Instead of his usual path past the mess hall and training grounds, he turned toward the records building. The administrative wing was usually quiet during morning hours, with most personnel focused on field exercises. The hallway was lined with plaques honoring distinguished service members, their faces staring down at anyone who passed. As he approached the Marksmanship Division office, Thompson noticed the door was slightly ajar. Through the gap, he could see rows of filing cabinets containing shooting records, training scores, and qualification certificates. The room smelled of paper and ink, a stark contrast to the gunpowder and sweat that usually filled his nostrils during base visits. Something caught his attention: a conversation between two sergeants inside the office. They were discussing recent training results, their voices carrying just enough for him to hear fragments of their discussion. One mentioned exceptional scores that seemed almost impossible to believe. The other sergeant sounded equally amazed, describing accuracy levels that surpassed even their most experienced snipers. Thompson paused outside the door, his curiosity piqued. In his years of service, he had seen many skilled marksmen, but the numbers being discussed seemed extraordinary. He had encountered soldiers who could hit targets at incredible distances, men who had proven themselves in combat situations where precision meant the difference between life and death. Yet these scores suggested something beyond typical military excellence. The general's mind raced back to recent training reports he had reviewed. He remembered noting some unusual statistics in the weekly summaries, but administrative paperwork often contained errors or exaggerations. Numbers on paper rarely told the complete story of a soldier's true capabilities. However, hearing the sergeants discuss these results with such genuine amazement made him reconsider their significance. Thompson straightened his uniform and prepared to enter the office. His protocol was always to investigate anything unusual personally, rather than rely solely on reports from subordinates. This hands-on approach had served him well throughout his career, helping him identify both problems and exceptional talent before they became obvious to others. As he reached for the door handle, one of the sergeants mentioned a name he had heard before but never paid particular attention to. The voice carried a tone of respect mixed with disbelief, the kind of reaction reserved for truly remarkable achievements. Thompson's hand froze on the metal handle as he processed what he was hearing. The conversation inside continued with details that made Thompson question everything he thought he knew about the capabilities of soldiers under his command. The sergeants were discussing not just training scores, but actual combat records that had been recently compiled and filed. These were real-world results, documented engagements where precision and skill had been tested under the most challenging conditions possible. Thompson realized he was about to discover something that would change his understanding of the personnel serving at his base. His years of experience had taught him to recognize when something truly exceptional was happening, and every instinct told him this was one of those moments. The casual way he had approached this morning walk was about to transform into something far more significant. General Thompson pushed open the door and stepped into the records office. The two sergeants immediately snapped to attention, their conversation cutting off mid-sentence. Sergeant Williams, a stocky man with 20 years of service, held a thick, manila folder in his hands. Sergeant Rodriguez, younger but equally experienced, had several computer printouts scattered across the desk between them. "At ease," Thompson said, his voice calm but commanding. "I couldn't help but overhear your discussion. What records are you reviewing that seem so remarkable?" The sergeants exchanged glances, uncertain how to respond. Williams cleared his throat and lifted the folder slightly. "Sir, We were going through the quarterly combat effectiveness reports. There's one file that contains some rather extraordinary statistics. Thompson moved closer to the desk, his eyes scanning the papers spread before them. Show me. Rodriguez picked up one of the printouts, his fingers trembling slightly as he handed it to the general. Sir, these are confirmed kill records from recent operations in Afghanistan. The numbers seem so unusual that we pulled the original reports to verify their accuracy. As Thompson took the document, he could see why the sergeants had been so amazed. The paper contained a detailed breakdown of sniper engagements, each entry meticulously documented with date, time, distance, and confirmation status. What made his eyebrows rise was not just the quantity of successful engagements, but the consistency and precision described in each report. The name at the top of the document read, Specialist Sarah Chen. Thompson recognized it now. He had signed off on her deployment orders months ago, but she was just one of many soldiers rotating through various assignments. Her file had never crossed his desk for disciplinary issues or commendations, which usually meant a soldier was performing adequately without standing out in either direction. These distances, Thompson murmured, running his finger down the list. 800 meters, 900 meters, over 1,000 meters in several cases. And the success rate is 100%, sir, Williams finished. Every single engagement resulted in a confirmed elimination. No misses, no wounded targets requiring follow-up shots. Clean, precise, effective. Thompson continued reading, his experienced eye catching details that most people would overlook. The conditions described in many of these engagements were far from ideal. Night operations, adverse weather, moving targets, and situations where other team members had failed to make the shot. Yet Chen's record showed success in every scenario. Rodriguez pulled out another document from the stack. Sir, we also found her training records from basic marksmanship through advanced sniper school. Her instructors noted exceptional natural ability, but these combat results exceed anything they predicted. The general studied Chen's training progression. Her scores had been impressive from the beginning, but they showed steady improvement that suggested dedication and natural talent, working together. However, the gap between her best training performance and her combat effectiveness was remarkable. Have these reports been verified through proper channels? Thompson asked. I've seen exaggerated claims before, especially when soldiers are trying to build their reputations. Williams nodded firmly. Yes, sir, we thought the same thing. Each kill has been confirmed by multiple sources, spotter reports, drone footage, and in many cases, ground team verification. The operations commanders have signed off on every entry. Thompson set down the papers and looked at both sergeants. Where is Specialist Chen currently stationed? She returned from deployment 2 weeks ago, sir. She's been assigned to routine training duties while awaiting her next assignment. According to the duty roster, she's probably at the rifle range right now, helping with new recruit qualification training. The general felt a mix of curiosity and concern. Soldiers with exceptional combat records sometimes struggled with the transition back to base life. The intensity of operational success could make routine training feel meaningless, leading to discipline problems or requests for immediate redeployment. He had seen talented soldiers burn out from the psychological pressure of maintaining such high-performance standards. Has she reported any issues since returning? Any problems adapting to base routine? Rodriguez shook his head. No, sir, quite the opposite. Her supervising officers report that she's been helpful, professional, and effective in her training duties. She seems to be mentoring newer soldiers without any attitude problems. Thompson picked up the folder containing Chen's complete file. As he flipped through the pages, he saw a pattern that intrigued him. Her combat record was extraordinary, but her personal evaluations showed someone who worked well with others, followed orders without question, and maintained high standards in all aspects of military life. I want to meet with Specialist Chen, Thompson decided, but I don't want this to feel like an interrogation or create unnecessary attention. Can you arrange for me to observe one of her training sessions without making it obvious? The sergeants confirmed they could arrange an informal observation. As Thompson prepared to leave the office, he realized this discovery was going to require careful handling. Soldiers with exceptional abilities could be valuable assets, but they also needed proper support and management to maintain their effectiveness while protecting their well-being. Later that afternoon, General Thompson made his way to the main rifle range, carrying himself with the same casual demeanor he displayed during routine inspections. The range buzzed with activity as new recruits practiced their marksmanship under the guidance of experienced instructors. The sharp crack of rifle fire echoed across the facility, punctuated by shouted commands and corrections. Thompson positioned himself in the observation area, pretending to review paperwork while actually scanning the range for Specialist Chen. Among the instructors moving between shooting lanes, he spotted a figure that matched the description from her personnel file, a woman of average height with dark hair pulled back in regulation style, wearing standard issue fatigues that somehow looked more professional than those worn by her peers. Chen was working with a group of recruits who were clearly struggling with their accuracy. Thompson watched as she approached each shooter individually, making small adjustments to their stance, grip, and sight alignment. Her movements were economical and precise, wasting no motion or words. When she spoke to the recruits, her voice carried clearly despite being calm and measured. What struck Thompson immediately was her teaching method. Rather than barking corrections like many drill instructors, Chen demonstrated each adjustment personally. She would take the rifle, assume the proper position, and fire a shot that invariably hit the center of the target. Then she would hand the weapon back to the recruit and guide them through the same motions until they understood the correction. One recruit in particular seemed to be having serious difficulty. His shots were scattered across the target with no apparent pattern, and his frustration was evident in his increasingly tense posture. Other instructors had moved on to work with more promising shooters, but Chen remained patient with the struggling soldier. Thompson moved closer to observe her interaction with this recruit. He could hear her quiet voice explaining breathing, techniques, and trigger control. She had the young man dry fire several times, watching his form carefully and making tiny adjustments to his position. When she finally allowed him to shoot live rounds, his first shot hit the outer ring of the target, a significant improvement. "Better," Chen said simply. "Now do it again, exactly the same way." The recruit's second shot landed closer to the center, and Thompson could see the young man's confidence building with each successful round. Chen's approach was producing results where other methods had failed, but she never raised her voice or claimed credit for the improvement. As the training session continued, Thompson noticed something else about Chen's behavior. While other instructors clustered together during brief breaks, chatting and joking among themselves, she used these moments to study the range conditions. She would glance at the wind flags, check the lighting, and observe how these factors were affecting the recruit's performance. During one break, Thompson watched Chen walk to an unused lane and fire several practice shots of her own. Her routine was methodical. She checked her rifle carefully, adjusted her scope minutely, and then fired 3 shots in rapid succession. Through his binoculars, Thompson could see that all 3 bullets had passed through nearly the same hole in the center of a target placed at maximum range. What impressed him most was her reaction to this display of skill. There was no satisfaction, no pride, no acknowledgement that she had just demonstrated exceptional marksmanship. She simply noted her rifle's zero, made a small adjustment to the scope, and returned to helping the recruits. Thompson realized he was witnessing something rare. In the military, a soldier whose exceptional abilities were matched by genuine humility and dedication to helping others improve. Many highly skilled personnel developed egos that made them difficult to work with or unwilling to share their knowledge effectively. Chen appeared to be the opposite. As the afternoon session concluded, Thompson observed Chen's final interactions with the recruits. She took time to speak privately with each one, offering specific advice tailored to their individual needs. The struggling recruit who had shown improvement approached her with obvious gratitude, and Thompson could see her encouraging him while maintaining realistic expectations about his progress. The other instructors began cleaning up the range equipment, but Chen remained until every rifle was properly cleaned and secured. Every piece of brass was collected, and the range was left in perfect condition. Her attention to detail extended beyond just shooting. She maintained the same high standards in every aspect of her duties. Thompson made a decision as he watched Chen secure the final rifle in the arms room. This was someone who deserved recognition, not just for her combat achievements, but for her character and professionalism. However, he also realized that handling such exceptional talent required careful consideration of both the individual's needs and the military's requirements. As you say, Chen walked past the observation area on her way back to the barracks. She briefly made eye contact with Thompson. Her nod was respectful but not deferential, confident but not arrogant. In that brief moment, Thompson saw the quiet professionalism that had made her so effective both in combat and in training others. The general knew that his next conversation with Chen would be crucial in determining how her remarkable abilities could best serve both her career and the military's needs. The following morning, General Thompson arranged to meet with Specialist Chen in his office. He had specifically chosen an informal setting rather than a formal review, wanting to create an environment where honest conversation could occur. His office walls were lined with maps, commendations, and photographs from his various deployments, creating a backdrop that spoke to shared military experience rather than hierarchical authority. Chen arrived precisely on time, her uniform immaculate, and her bearing professional without being rigid. Thompson gestured for her to take a seat across from his desk, noting that she moved with the same economical grace he had observed at the rifle range. "Specialist Chen, thank you for coming," Thompson began, keeping his tone conversational. "I've been reviewing some recent reports, and your name has come up in several contexts. I wanted to meet with you personally to discuss your experiences and your future with the unit." Chen nodded respectfully. "Yes, sir. Is there something specific you'd like to know about my service record?" Thompson leaned back in his chair, studying her expression. "Your combat record from Afghanistan is remarkable. The statistics show a level of effectiveness that's unusual even among our most experienced snipers. I'm curious about your perspective on those operations." For a moment, Chen's composed expression flickered with something Thompson couldn't quite identify. Not pride, but perhaps a complex mixture of professional satisfaction and personal cost. When she spoke, her voice remained steady. "Sir, I was fortunate to serve with excellent teams and to receive support that allowed me to do my job effectively. The conditions were challenging, but my training prepared me well." Thompson recognized the diplomatic response typical of soldiers who had learned to be cautious about discussing their achievements. "Chen, I'm not conducting an investigation or looking for problems. Your record speaks for itself in terms of professional excellence. I'm more interested in understanding how you've managed to maintain such consistency under difficult conditions." This seemed to relax her slightly. "Sir, I think it comes down to preparation and focus. Every shot in combat represents someone's life, either saving the lives of my teammates or eliminating threats that could harm innocent people. That responsibility requires complete concentration and the best technical execution possible." Thompson appreciated the thoughtful response. "Your training supervisors noted exceptional natural ability, but natural talent alone doesn't account for the kind of results you've achieved. What drove you to develop your skills to this level?" Chen paused before answering, and Thompson could see her considering how much to reveal. "Sir, I grew up in a family where precision mattered. My father was a watchmaker, and my mother was a surgeon. Both of them taught me that doing something well required patience, practice, and attention to the smallest details. When I discovered I had some aptitude for marksmanship, those lessons seemed to apply naturally." This background information added context to what Thompson had observed. The methodical approach he had witnessed at the range reflected values learned long before military service. "How did you handle the transition from training to actual combat operations?" "The first engagement was difficult, sir," Chen admitted. "Not technically, the shot itself was straightforward, but understanding the weight of that responsibility took time to process. I realized that my skills could save lives and complete missions, so I had an obligation to maintain the highest possible standards." Thompson found her honesty refreshing. Many soldiers either downplayed the psychological impact of combat or exaggerated their struggles for effect. Chen seemed to have found a balanced perspective that acknowledged both the difficulty and the importance of her role. Your current assignment has you working with new recruits, Thompson observed. How do you find that compared to operational duties? Chen's expression brightened slightly. I enjoy the teaching, sir. Helping someone improve their marksmanship skills gives them better chances of surviving if they face combat situations. It feels like a different way of protecting people, but it's still meaningful work. This comment reinforced Thompson's earlier observations about her character. Your supervising officers report that you're effective with recruits who are struggling. What's your approach with soldiers who are having difficulty? Sir, I think most shooting problems come from tension and overthinking. When someone is frustrated, they try too hard and make their technique worse. I try to help them relax and focus on the basics until those become automatic. Once they stop fighting themselves, their natural ability usually shows improvement. Thompson realized that Chen's teaching philosophy reflected the same principles that made her combat performance so effective. Her ability to remain calm under pressure allowed her to help others achieve similar mental states. Chen, I'm going to be direct with you, Thompson said, shifting to a more serious tone. Your combat record and your performance here suggest capabilities that could be valuable in specialized assignments. However, I also want to make sure that any future roles align with your personal goals and well-being. What are your thoughts about your career direction? Chen straightened slightly, recognizing the importance of the question. Sir, I'm committed to serving wherever I can be most effective. If that means returning to operational assignments, I'm prepared for that. If it means continuing to train others or taking on new responsibilities, I'm willing to adapt. Thompson appreciated her flexibility while noting that she hadn't revealed her personal preferences. This final conversation would help him determine how best to utilize her exceptional talents while supporting her development as a soldier and a leader. General Thompson leaned forward, sensing that there were layers to Chen's story that hadn't yet been revealed. His years of leadership had taught him to recognize when soldiers were holding back important information, not out of deception, but from uncertainty about how much to share with superior officers. Chen, may I ask you something more personal? Thompson's tone became gentler. Your record shows incredible consistency under pressure, but I'm curious about the cost. Combat operations like yours require enormous mental strength. How do you manage that burden? For the first time since entering the office, Chen's carefully maintained composure wavered. She looked down at her hands for a moment before meeting Thompson's eyes again. Sir, that's something I think about often. Each successful engagement meant completing the mission and protecting my team, but it also meant ending someone's life. I don't take that lightly. Thompson nodded, recognizing the weight behind her words. Have you sought any support for processing those experiences? The base counseling services are available, and there's no stigma in using them. I've spoken with the chaplain several times, sir. He helped me understand that struggling with the moral weight of these actions is normal and healthy. I think if killing became easy or meaningless, I would be losing an important part of my humanity. This response revealed a depth of character that impressed Thompson even more than her marksmanship records. That's a mature perspective, Chen. It also suggests you understand the responsibility that comes with your abilities. Chen shifted in her chair, and Thompson could see she was wrestling with whether to reveal something more. Sir, there's something else about my deployment that didn't make it into the official reports. Thompson raised an eyebrow but remained silent, allowing her to continue at her own pace. During my last month in Afghanistan, I was assigned to protect a forward operating base that was experiencing regular sniper attacks. The enemy shooter was extremely skilled and had already killed 3 of our personnel. Traditional counter-sniper tactics weren't working because he knew the terrain better than we did, and changed positions frequently. Chen paused, gathering her thoughts. I spent 2 weeks studying his patterns, learning his preferred positions, and waiting for the right opportunity. The engagement that finally eliminated him lasted 4 hours. I had to remain motionless in the same position, tracking his movement through multiple locations until I could make a shot that guaranteed success. Thompson realized this was likely the most challenging engagement of her deployment, but it hadn't been highlighted in the reports he had reviewed. What made that situation different from your other engagements? Sir, this wasn't about supporting a specific mission or protecting teammates during an operation. This was about ending a threat that had been terrorizing our base for weeks. Everyone was afraid to move around normally because nobody knew where the next shot would come from. When I finally eliminated him, the relief on everyone's faces was significant. The weight of leadership responsibility was evident in her voice. Thompson understood that Chen had carried not just the technical challenge of an extremely difficult shot, but the psychological burden of knowing that failure would mean continued danger for everyone on the base. How did that experience affect your perspective on your role as a sniper? Chen considered the question carefully. Sir, it made me realize that sometimes my job is about more than just completing individual missions. Sometimes it's about creating safety and peace of mind for other people. That's a different kind of responsibility, but it's equally important. Thompson saw in this story the explanation for Chen's current dedication to training recruits. Her understanding of how individual skills could impact entire units had translated into a commitment to improving the capabilities of other soldiers. Chen, I'm going to share something with you that you might find interesting, Thompson said, reaching into his desk drawer. He pulled out a folder containing several documents. I've been researching the background of that enemy sniper you eliminated. Chen's eyes widened slightly as Thompson opened the folder. Intelligence reports indicate he was a former military sniper, with over 30 confirmed kills against coalition forces. He had been operating in that region for more than 2 years, and several previous attempts to neutralize him had failed. Thompson handed her one of the documents. According to this analysis, your successful engagement eliminated what was considered one of the most dangerous individual threats in that sector. The impact on base security and morale was documented as significant. Chen read the report silently, and Thompson could see her processing this new information. Sir, I never knew the full extent of his previous activities. During the engagement, I was focused only on the immediate threat. That's exactly why your approach was effective, Thompson replied. You maintained focus on your professional responsibilities without getting overwhelmed by factors outside your control. That kind of mental discipline is rare and valuable. Thompson realized that this conversation was revealing not just Chen's exceptional abilities, but also her character and potential for leadership. The question now was how to best utilize these qualities for both her benefit and the military's needs. General Thompson closed the folder and leaned back in his chair, studying Chen with newfound respect and understanding. The conversation had revealed not just an exceptional soldier, but someone whose character and judgment matched her technical abilities. This combination was rare and represented significant potential for both military effectiveness and leadership development. Chen, based on our conversation and your demonstrated capabilities, I'm considering several options for your future assignments, Thompson began. But before I discuss those possibilities, I want to understand your personal goals and preferences. Chen straightened in her chair, recognizing the importance of this moment in her career. Sir, I'm committed to serving wherever I can make the greatest contribution to mission success and the welfare of other soldiers. Whether that means returning to operational roles, advancing my training responsibilities, or taking on new challenges, I'm prepared to adapt. Thompson appreciated her flexibility, but he wanted to understand her genuine preferences. That's a professional answer, specialist, and I respect your willingness to serve where needed. However, I'm also interested in what type of work you find most fulfilling personally. For a moment, Chen's professional demeanor softened as she considered how to express her true feelings. Sir, both combat operations and training have been rewarding in different ways. In combat, there's immediate clarity about making a difference, protecting teammates and completing missions. In training, the impact is longer term but potentially broader, helping soldiers develop skills that could save their lives or make them more effective. Thompson nodded, recognizing the thoughtful balance in her perspective. Your teaching abilities have been noticed by several officers. You have a talent for helping struggling soldiers improve, and your technical knowledge could be valuable in developing new training programs. Chen's eyes showed interest, but she remained focused on Thompson's assessment. At the same time, he continued, your operational capabilities represent a significant asset for specialized missions. Your proven effectiveness in challenging Environments could be crucial for future operations requiring precision and reliability. Thompson paused, allowing Chen to process these competing possibilities. There's also a third option I'd like you to consider. The military is developing new programs that combine operational experience with training development and leadership responsibilities. These positions would allow you to utilize both your combat expertise and your teaching abilities while preparing you for advancement to non-commissioned officer roles. This possibility clearly intrigued Chen. Sir, could you tell me more about what those positions would involve? You would work with specialized units to develop advanced marksmanship training programs based on real combat experience. This would include some operational assignments to maintain your current skills, combined with responsibilities for training select personnel and developing new techniques. It's a path that could lead to significant leadership opportunities while utilizing your unique combination of abilities. Thompson could see Chen processing this information carefully. The position would also involve working with other services and potentially allied forces to share knowledge and techniques. Your proven ability to work effectively with different personnel would be valuable in those contexts. Chen's expression showed genuine interest in this comprehensive role. Sir, that sounds like an opportunity to contribute in multiple ways while continuing to develop professionally. I would be very interested in learning more about those possibilities. Thompson smiled, pleased with her response. I thought you might be. However, I want you to take time to consider all these options carefully. This decision will significantly impact your career trajectory, and I want you to be certain about your choice. He reached into his desk and pulled out several information packets. These contain details about each path we've discussed. Continued. Operational assignments, advanced training positions, and the combined leadership track. Review them thoroughly, and we'll meet again next week to discuss your decision. As Chen gathered the packets, Thompson added, I also want you to know that, regardless of which direction you choose, you have my support and recommendation. Your record and character demonstrate the qualities the military needs in its future leaders. Chen stood and rendered a respectful salute. Thank you, sir. I appreciate both the opportunities and your confidence in my abilities. I'll review these materials carefully and be prepared to discuss my decision at our next meeting. As she prepared to leave, Thompson offered one final observation. Chen, your exceptional marksmanship abilities first brought you to my attention, but our conversation has shown me that your greatest strength may be your character and judgment. Whatever path you choose, remember that those qualities will serve you well in any role. After Chen left the office, Thompson reflected on their conversation. His casual walk through the base had led to the discovery of not just exceptional combat skills, but a soldier whose combination of abilities, character, and potential represented exactly the kind of person the military needed to develop and promote. The records that had initially amazed him were impressive, but the person behind those achievements was even more remarkable. Thompson knew that supporting Chen's development properly could benefit both her career and the military's future effectiveness. His accidental discovery had revealed someone whose story was just beginning to unfold, and he looked forward to watching her continue to excel in whatever role she ultimately chose.